Many will simply call this Subnautica in space, and well, they'll be right. Maybe a little too right. I covered a little preview of this game about a year and a half ago, and it's come a really long way since. So get comfy and let me give you the rundown of this new early access title. Good day to you my friends, I'm Kenator, and thanks to the devs for sending me this review key. Astrometica starts in a very similar vein as Subnautica, with the escaping of a damaged ship into the unknown and having to survive for yourself with what's on hand, venturing out on small trips as your tiny oxygen supply will allow. Space, however, is not an ocean, and there's no surface to dip up for air. There are, however, buildings and a few asteroid areas where there is a constrained bubble of air that exists, and you can both explore these and, critically, resupply your oxygen. Survival mechanics exist too, with food and water consumption also being needed to stay alive. However, these have a quite decently slow rate, so don't worry about extreme survival cases. Your main worry will just be your oxygen management. On the story side, it kicks things off with a really cool CGI intro video of you escaping what is clearly a damaged spaceship. But when you read the logs at the start of the game, it contains a bit more lore and says it's a station that had exploded, which caused me a little bit of confusion, especially once you start exploring the game and find ruined, smaller micro stations. Were all of these part of it too? Who knows? There's a few elements that just really weren't covered very well in the game. You do find plenty of other lore though, and story tidbits and small data recorders that you find while exploring. Most tell of the people that were working there or living there and what they were doing, while some hint at what may have caused all of this damage and why. Overall, I found this to be the weakest part of the game, and a lot of the time I couldn't even read what I found when I found it due to running out of oxygen. Now this would easily be resolved, however, with future addition of voice acting that would kick in when you pick up the log. And the devs have told me that they really do want to add this at some point, and you can always read all of your found logs safely in your base later on. Exploring, however, is definitely the strongest aspect here. Constantly pushing yourself to reach more and more of the map, find new resources, gather blueprints for buildings and equipment, and just trying to find hints on what actually happened in this place. And while the blueprint acquisition system is also lifted straight from Subnautica with scanning, as well as finding blueprint ships, the exploring hits very differently, as Subnautica is teeming with life, and not all of it is friendly. Along with this, the sometimes poor visibility adds a touch of tension and extra risk while exploring, and maybe sometimes a little bit of horror too, especially when you see these gargantuan creatures lurking in the depths. Astrometica is all but devoid of this feeling, but the game is not without enemies, so there is still some challenging aspect to certain areas. They are just easily and clearly approachable or avoided. For now, in this first version of the game, it is actually quite small, and only feels smaller as you unlock more advanced jetpacks and eventually vehicles as shown in the trailer. But don't let that put you off. Where Subnautica has one really big map, well, this is space. Space is, well, it's even bigger. And we already know this is around another planet, it's not Earth. And so while I won't spoil it for you as always, there are clearly ways to travel larger distances with ease. And this is where the future expansion of the game through early access and beyond could be really great, with no telling how many areas they could have in total. But at least for now, it will take you about 8 to 12 hours of gameplay to complete, possibly more depending on how hard you go with the base building, which is again heavily inspired by Subnautica. But I'm okay with that. It's a good system and it works well in giving you the freedom in layout, colour and interior design. Another fantastic part of the game is the soundtrack. It never once felt overly repetitive and had a good variety of tracks to fit either the calm and beautiful emerald green of the asteroid zone the game starts in, with the occasional tense track that could kick in at the right moments. There was definitely some spots where just the right track would come on and it just made me want to pause in the middle of everything I was doing and just take it all in, right before the oxygen warning snaps back to reality and you race back to the safety of an oxygen bubble. Now if you want a taste of that soundtrack besides what's been in the background of this video, I'll link the video to the devs where they have shared the soundtrack on YouTube. In terms of performance, the game was absolutely rock solid for me with pretty much constant 60 frames per second. I had no crashes and only encountered a minor bug or two. which is completely normal for a pre-release copy, and I think these will already be fixed by the time you're watching this. Overall, I definitely think it's worth a play as a fun little space adventure, and it will only get better from here on out, especially seeing how much it's changed in just the last year alone. Now, what I would love to see in the future is a lot more lore on who we are and why we are there, as in before the accident. I'd like to see some clean up of the intro of the story a little bit, and absolutely more mysteries to find and solve. The game should definitely continue its brilliant exploration gameplay, as I love that part the most, but it should absolutely, definitely try to differentiate itself just a little bit more from Subnautica and stand on its own merits just that bit more. Thankfully, we don't have to guess at some of the future content either, as the game's roadmap is integrated right into the title screen. So if you don't want to know what's coming, please start watching now. Okay, so we have drones and automation coming, there's new spaceships with combat, much more buildable parts, and full-on space stations that we can trade at. New game and difficulty modes are coming too, along with, obviously, more story. Now, if you do want to pick it up or join the game's official Discord, I will be linking these below. Now, please give the like button a little tickle if you enjoyed this review, and leave any questions in the comments below. Subscribe for more sci-fi gaming reviews, and I will see you guys in the next one. Kenator, out.